So here we are on the south side of Bell Island at the Dry Rocks area where there are hundreds of rock pools, and we're here today to learn how to sample the biodiversity of these rock pools. It actually doesn't take that much. It's not rocket science, it's rock pool science. So here's what we have. Well, first of all, whenever you come down to the rock pools, you need to prepare for the elements a little bit. Always bring a little bit of water because it can get very hot down here. It's often good to have a snack or something, and sunblock is also important, and you want to wear a hat. You want to have some shoes that have some decent tread. You don't have to get wet, but if they're shoes that you'd be comfortable getting wet, that's good. What else do we have in the bag here? So we've got a field guide. It's Vauchel's A Field Guide to Common Freshwater Invertebrates of North America. We also have a key piece of equipment, a dip net, and our sampling tray. And so when we sample things out of the pools, we'll put them into the sampling tray. It's important to have a nice white background so that you can see what you're looking at. We also have just kind of a visualizing tray. Sometimes we'll catch like a crayfish or something like that. We also need some sort of a measuring device. It's important that you have centimeters on one of the sides. This one's centimeters and inches, so you need to be careful which ones you're using. We've got a turkey baster, which we can use to suck up organisms and move them around. We have a spray bottle, which we use to spray out and rinse the net in between. And we have our data sheet, which is what we're essentially going to be walking through here, how to use this data sheet today. Need to have something to write with. That's also very important. And then here on our data sheet underneath, we also have some kind of cheat sheets that we've made. Some of the organisms are pretty small, and so even having a simple hand lens can help you see the important features. A pair of tweezers can also be handy. And then lastly, it's also often good to have your phone with you, for one, just to keep in touch with people, but in addition, we've developed a GIS collector app, which essentially is a map of the rock pools in this area, and it will show you, if you have your location turned on, where you are with respect to the pools down here. So sometimes you might not be sure which pool you're next to, and this can help you with that. So when we get started sampling, we're going to be working through the data sheet. So first of all, I would write down who is doing the sampling, the time that I am sampling, and the date. The pool has a tag, the number of the tag. And one of the first things that we want to do when we come to a pool is just to observe it. There are oftentimes things in the pools that we don't catch in our sweep nets, but we still see them in the pools, and we might like to make note that they're there. And so examples of things like that include fish, which are often too quick to catch in our nets, but also crayfish. Sometimes other very small things that we might see would be larval mosquitoes. We just observe the pool at the beginning and see if we notice any of those things. And if we do, there's a place on the data sheet at the back where we record them. So next we need to get the dimensions of the pool, the length, the width, the depth, and then the degree to which the pool has been sunken in, which we refer to as the lip. So in order to get the length, we will take the longest axis and measure the length in centimeters. In order to get the width, the second longest axis, and we'll measure that in centimeters. With depth, we typically take 4 measurements, sort of essentially one in each of the cardinal directions of the pool, if you will, sort of one on each side. Finally, the last measurement is how much the pools are sunken in, which is we refer to as the lip. And so that's essentially the distance from the surface of the water up to the top of the rock that overhangs it. All right, the next thing that we need to do is to characterize some basic qualities about the vegetation in the pool, particularly emergent plants. These are plants that are emerging out of the water line, and submerged aquatic vegetation, or SAV, and these are plants that are essentially at the water surface or below the water surface. So we would look at half the pool and say, all of this emergent vegetation here is covering less than half of the pool, so less than 50%. About 2/3 of the footprint of the pool would be covered by submerged aquatic vegetation, so we would say more than 50%. That's all you need to do. Now we're ready to do some sampling. So we have our guide so that we can double check our identifications, but we also have our little cheat sheet here. And so we'll take in total up to 10 sweeps. We're going to take 3 sweeps of the water column, 3 sweeps of the sides of the pool, and 3 sweeps of the bottom of the pool. So 3 sweeps from each of those different microhabitats in the pool. So it's important that you have a similar type of net as we're using here, about 12 by 14. The mesh size is about 1 millimeter. Now this is just a standard aquarium net, but you want to use about the same kind that we're using. And we're going to use what are called standard sweeps. just 25 centimeters. Now you want to have the whole net in the water, because then you can actually calculate the volume of area that you've sampled. And then we see what we've got. It's often good to try and dislodge some of the smaller critters and rinse the net. And then it's also good both to see things and for the sake of the animals to make sure you have some water in your sampling tray. So after we've swept 3 sweeps from the water column, we then will take 3 sweeps along the sides of the pool. Similarly, submerge the net and sweep it, scraping along the side with the edge, 25 centimeters. When we sample the bottom, we also want to submerge the net and scrape it along the bottom for a length of about 25 centimeters. All right, well, we've pretty much covered all the bases. We've worked through the data sheet. So now you've seen how you could come down and use our sampling protocol to sample the biodiversity of these rock pools.